Well, hey folks, Brian here. Welcome back to Wax Trash Treasures. Nice to see you. Nice to be seen. Always great to be a part of your day. Sometimes when you are in the lead, you start to get a little complacent. You start to get a little maybe too comfortable. You start to make silly, unforced errors, mistakes that might end up actually causing you some problems down the line. Now, this is a sports card channel, not any other type of channel. So I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about this guy. And I'm actually not talking about these guys either. Instead, I want to talk about PSA. PSA has been the leader in card and collectible grading for as long as they have been in existence, basically, and certainly for as long as the hobby has been a truly active and significant source of income for a lot of people. The simple fact is they grade more cards than anybody else. They grade more other products than anybody else, and they've been around longer than anybody else. That matters, right? That creates a bit of a almost a mythos around the company. But the problem is that sometimes, well, they start to make mistakes, and they start to make these mistakes because they've never really been challenged on anything before. PSA has made three pretty significant errors this year that are not going to cause them any problems in terms of hobby dominance, but they're going to cost them some money. So the first is they released a new holder called the 1LR Plus. They serialize their holder names like any good company does, right? And the 1LR Plus is designed to be sort of a new kind of plastic. It's this medical grade plastic. Feels a little softer, feels a little bit heavier, feels a little denser. It's got a slightly different shape to help better protect the cards, but it also has these guys. This is a flow line, and a flow line is caused in a plastic manufacturing process, in a molding process, where a little bit of plastic shapes itself differently than the rest of the mold because it's connected to something. There's a change in shape in the mold, or a change in density, or a change in temperature in the mold, and it causes the plastic to not behave ideally. PSA released these new holders in February, January, and by May, these reports started to come out that PSA holders were leaving these little inclusions, and it caused hobbyists some worry, right? Like, is it touching my card? Is it going to scratch the surface of my card? Is it going to damage my card? Is it a crack in the plastic? Is it going to affect the longevity of the holder? And PSA has been saying, pretty much all of the right things. They're saying, oh, no, it's not going to damage your card, and we'll fix it for free when we have a solution, and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. The problem is, they didn't actually need to release these new holders, except for one issue. And that is, part of the reason that they release these new holders is that they're supposed to be slightly harder to crack. And this is the second error that PSA made. PSA has released these new holders. They want them to be harder to crack. They want it to be harder for people to purchase an already graded card and then resubmit it. And as it turns out, they're not any harder to break. I'm not going to show anybody how to do it, but there are videos on all over the internet of how to crack the new PSA holders. It's not any harder than it was cracking the old ones. And then, of course, there's always the incentive to do it, right? Like, you can buy a PSA 6, 7, 8 and look at it and you can say, oh, this is clearly a 9, this is clearly a 10. I can make a bunch of money if I just resubmit the card. And you take the card and you crack open the slab, you send the card into PSA, you spend $25 or whatever it costs to get it graded, and it comes back, and as long as you made more than $25 in a profit, well, congratulations, you're a genius. And PSA doesn't want people to do this. They released the new holders. It hasn't worked out quite the way they'd hoped. Among other things, just last week, on June 30th, they announced they're not even going to, was it June 30th? I think it was. Yeah, they're not even going to keep they're not even going to keep producing these new 1LR Plus holders. They're going to go back to the old ones because, quite frankly, they don't know how to fix the flow line issue. And yeah, that's not ideal for PSA. It's going to cost them a ton of money. It's going to cost them a ton of money to reslab all of the existing holders that have those flow lines. It's going to be a problem for them. Money down the drain. The third issue is one where PSA tried to do the right thing, but they didn't do it in the right way. Collectors for years have been clamoring for all of the grading companies to explain a little bit better about why it is that their card got the grade that they got. Now, Tag is a company that sends you this digitized score. They use AI and photo scanning, and it's all an entirely automated process to grade your card. And they will send you back your individual scores on corners, surface, centering, all of that sort of stuff. But nobody else does. PSA announced in mid-June they're going to start doing that, but then they goofed. They made this mistake that shows that they've never really been challenged and they've never had to think about what it is that they're doing. In point number 14 of the PSA terms and conditions, they added a line that says grader notes are for personal use only and cannot be publicly shared. Now, this is a big problem for the investor class, for the people who buy grading or who send their cards out to be graded because they want to flip them and turn them into higher value cards, right? If you can't share why it is that it's a 9 or why it is that it's, why it isn't a 10, then, you've lost a bit of information, right? Like the free market depends on a little bit of information asymmetry, but it also depends on information exchange. And here's some information you can't exchange. This caused a huge kerfuffle, right? Like PSA trying to do the right thing, but they did it in exactly the wrong way. They made it harder for people to want to use this product. They eventually had to come out. Ryan, the PSA president, had to come out and basically say, like, no, 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 no. You can use grader notes for personal use, and listing it on eBay as personal use. Well, that's not what personal use means, but that's not really here or there. The issue is that line is still, as of today, July the 5th, still in the PSA terms and conditions that you can't actually use the grader notes. So left hand and right hand, or right hand and left hand, whatever, are not really talking to each other. Somebody's not getting the memo, and somebody is certainly not, if they are getting the memo, certainly not sending it on to their other 8 bosses. Look, I put out a video just a couple of weeks ago, and in fact it was the last video I uploaded, that we're in a junk slab era. Too many people are grading too many cards. There's too much drive to turn card into profit, and not enough drive to collect and really treasure the cards. And this is sort of old man yelling at clouds, and I get that, and it's fine. But the real issue is there's just, look at this chart. Look at this chart. There are twice as many cards getting graded now as there were just 3 years ago. That is not a sustainable path in the hobby, in anything, right? We're getting into that syndrome Incredibles line where if everyone is special, then nobody is. And we're going to find ourselves there soon enough, because PSA is the big dog. They're always increasing their grading. The SGC is growing, tag is growing. There's too many graded cards out there and too much incentive to make grading happen, and that's perverting the marketplace, and it's leading to things like we have to introduce a new holder to create to prevent cracking. Well, that doesn't work. We have to introduce grader notes because somebody else is doing it, but we don't actually know how to talk about what we want to do. There's so much wrong with the hobby. So much of it comes back to this idea of profit taking, and you have to make it special, you have to make it valuable, or it's not worth having. I think it's wrong-headed. And we're starting to see the players start to struggle with how to deal with that wrong-headedness. So, just my 2 cents. Happy 4th of July, everybody, and thanks for watching.